everyone, welcome to another webinar on calorie and macro tracking. I am in my pajamas, but I've washed my hair. I think I always do my webinars in my pajamas. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but I live in pajamas. If I'm not in gym wear, I mean, I'm either in like a really skanky hoodie or in my pajamas. Anyhow, so calories and macro tracking. I wanted to do like a really in-depth sort of guide on why you guys calorie track, why it's my method to get you guys to be in a deficit, and about macros. So on the last webinar, you learned about what macros are, and then we're just going to sort of dive into the benefits of tracking them. So you're going to learn about why do we track them, how to do it accurately, practical calorie counting tips, and this is just from what I've learned. Like, you've got to remember that I have been calorie counting technically since I was 14 years old, which is not ideal, but technically since I was 14 years old, but properly I've been tracking for about 4 years now. So I know all the tips and tricks. I'm going to share some of them with you here. Tips for tracking when eating out, because that is a thing that a lot of people get confused about, or they either just bury their head in the sand and don't do it at all, or they do it completely wrong. Common things not tracked correctly, and then how to track without it taking over your life, which I think is a really, really important one, because as I say all the time, calorie tracking is a tool. It's like, this is why Slimming World, I'm going into one now. This is why Slimming World doesn't work, because Slimming World is a tool. It is not a way of life. And I think that's the thing, is that when people go into Slimming World, then they don't do it anymore. They don't know how to maintain that. And the same goes with calorie counting. You don't need to do calorie counting for the rest of your life. But the great thing about calorie counting is that you can't get around energy balance. It is how your body consumes energy. That is what calories are, as you know from the last webinar, and you can't get around it. So when you are sort of manipulating your calories, you might as well do it in the most literal format. You might as well count them, because all Slimming World is putting you in a deficit. So you might as well just do it literal. Anyway, I rant. So why do we do it? It is the best for nutritional awareness, often leads to better food choices. You soon figure out, you basically figure out very quickly what calories are worth it versus what are not. So like, what I mean by that is that, for example, I might have a glass of wine at 133 calories, and I might think, oh mate, this is so delicious, like it is so worth it. Someone might put a chocolate bar at me and say, do you want this? And then whether I'm calorie counting or not, I know my energy needs, and that's the thing. You'll soon know what your energy needs are, because when you work with me, you'll learn how to be in a deficit, but then you'll also learn how to be in a maintenance. So you'll think, you know what, like, yeah, it's worth it, or you know what, I could take or leave that. So someone throws a glass of wine in my face, I'm very likely going to say yeah. So again, as well, is it's very easy to help us understand our calorie needs. So every person will need a set amount of calories, and you can use calorie trackers to work that one out. There will be a range of a give or take, and our body is very good at maintaining. That is the beauty of it. So our body will always be in a range of calories, and we will soon learn that. We will soon learn as well, like what calories are, how much they make up, what works for us, what doesn't work for us. So for me, I'm very much like carb based. I enjoy carbohydrates. That is my source of energy, where some people might prefer having fats, and you soon learn that very, very quickly when you're calorie counting. I like treating calorie counting like a budget. So like, I budget my salary. So I will get a set amount from my night shifts, and I will take out the things that I need for bills, food, etc. Then I am left with the fun stuff, my fun money. And I would call that, say you're allowed 1,500 calories on a calorie deficit, you might budget 1,400 calories because of good food, because you know that that's going to pay your bills. You know that you need that food to survive, just like your salary. You know that you need, say you earn 1,500 a month, you need 1,300 just to pay the bills, you're left, and petrol and all that, then you are left with £200 for spending money. You could use that in the same way of calorie counting, and that's how I like to do the approach, and I think it's really, really good when you have a budget. How to do it? So how you do it is, I know this sounds very literal, but if people don't know, I need to make sure that you guys do understand, is you grab a food scale, and it has to be measured in grams. This is really important, because in America they tend to measure in cups, which isn't very helpful. So make sure that you grab a food scale that is in grams, and then always set it to 0. You weigh out your food that you want. Don't eyeball it. That's another thing, is a lot of people like look at the packaging and they go, oh look, it's 30 grams, and then they eyeball it. But you will be surprised. All food, even if you have oats, jumbo oats, for example, will be slightly different to bigger oats. Granola will be slightly different. You'll be surprised. And then you just plug it into, as you know, I like NutriCheck. You plug it in like that, and then you can see the macro breakdown. Are you going to go like that? Or are you just... There we go. So I didn't miss anything. Oh, why does it look upwards? Oh, well, we're going to work with this. So practical tips for calorie counting would be using NutriCheck because it is a lot more visual. When I first started my journey, I was using MyFitnessPal and I just couldn't get on with it. I think that's the one thing that everyone goes on to because they're really good at marketing it. I just couldn't get on with it. It was really clunky. I was trying to work out certain grams of food and it just ended up being really difficult. NutriCheck is really, it's very UK based, but they have just started going into the US space as well. You literally can use barcodes, you can make meal inputs. It's just really, really visual and really easy to use. A good tip as well is pre-logging when possible. So if you literally looked at I don't think you could see it. If you can see right now, I've logged all my food right until Saturday because I know that I'm really busy. I'm on my night shifts. I've got to take my car out for an MOT tomorrow, which I'm not looking forward to. And then I know that I'm really busy, so I've got to make sure everything's input. So I input things. The more you input, you'll realise that you are eating the same thing pretty much every day. People that get all upset about eating the same thing every day, I'm like, well, what is your McDonald's order? And I'm like, do you order that all the time? Yeah, there you go. There is a study that says that most people eat between 20 and 30 of the same things every day on repeat, okay? Or within a week on repeat. So finding foods on, logging it and finding what works and sticking to it is really, really helpful. And then what you can do with that is finding variations of things. So for example, let's take a good wholesome wrap. So you've got a wrap, for example, you've got a chicken wrap. Okay, cool. That is your lunch. You are having that for lunch. Okay, every day. It just makes it so much easier. When you're working, you can have your wrap for lunch every day. But you can vary it out. You can have barbecue chicken. You can have chili. You can have sweet chili chicken. You can have chicken mayo. Then, okay, you're bored of chicken now. You can have tuna. You can have prawns. You can have heck sausages with it. You can maybe switch it out and have it for breakfast and have whatever you have for breakfast on. There's so many different variations, but what I'm trying to say is that when you eat similar foods, it gets a lot easier. A really good method is the 2-1 method. So the reason why I really like this is it creates a variation of flexibility and a better structure to help you going, because the thing with calorie counting is that if you turn around and say to someone calorie count, they can get really overwhelmed and it's really easy to just sort of go an all or nothing approach and not really prioritize your health. So the great thing about the 2-1 method, which is something that I like to do, is my 2 meals, so assuming you're having 3 meals a day, which I would recommend you do, you would have 2 meals that you know are going to hit everything that it needs. It's going to hit all your protein goals. It's going to hit your fruit and veggie goals. You know that it's going to hit everything that you need to do. Tick, done. No thinking about it. You have those every day. Then you might have 1 meal, which for me tends to be dinner, and for a lot of people it tends to be dinner because they're cooking for they're cooking for their children, they're cooking for the husband. These are the more flexible meals. You might make a set amount of calories, and you might set a set amount of protein, but that way then you can be flexible. That's the approach I like to do. And then for the weekend, I become very flexible, and then I have more of I might use the opportunity to do some more cooking because I know that I've got the time to do it. So I might have a cooked breakfast where in the morning before I go to work, I don't have time to do a cooked breakfast. I'm going to have my overnight oats. And this is a really, really good method to just sort of make calorie counting work for you rather than the other way around. Use routine to your advantage. Eat similar foods. Usually use the weekend for flexibility. So that's something I've already spoken about. This is just some practical tips. Calorie counting, yes, but more just for being in a deficit. You guys have started your 1 week in now. I want you to go back and have a little think and do this from now on. Think about your hunger. Think about your portions. Find your perfect meal. Have it be very literal. Have a meal and work out when you're next hungry. If you're next hungry in 3 hours, have a little look at that meal. Did that meal serve you? Maybe you needed more pasta in it. Maybe it didn't have enough carbohydrates. Maybe there was too much fat in it. Maybe you actually do better on carbohydrates. Maybe there wasn't enough fat in it. Maybe you need to have more fat. Play around with it. Another example is that I train fasted with a small snack. Some people wake up really hungry and then their workout isn't really good, so they know they need to have a meal. If I'm on a rest day, I have 3 big meals, but I've only known this because I'm very self-aware and I write everything down, or at least mentally think things down. And you've got to bear in mind, I've worked out my pattern over 2 years of really taking my fitness journey seriously, And also it changes up. When I'm in a deficit, it's completely different to how I eat when I'm not too completely, but it's slightly different when I'm, say, going for like maintenance or even going for a surplus. So use, you know, your different life stages and have a little look. Find out what's working for you. Log winning meals, log macros and calories, and have them on hand if you need. I cannot say how good this is to have. Have your go-to meals. Like, for example, today I was really busy and it got to like 7:30. I was like, holy, I need to eat something. And I haven't pre-planned. I wasn't very good. And I was like, okay, I know that I like pasta and chicken. Okay, boom, have my pasta and chicken. Done. Look on it. Look on a previous log. Okay, it's 450 calories. Done. Done and dusted. So log your winning meals. Pay attention to the macro breakdown. Understand what's satisfying your needs. Like, for example, if you find that when my like blown out the way moment was when I just come out of a deficit and my hunger levels were all over the place, and I had this breakfast and it was like about 500 calories, but it was really high in fat, and I was blown. I was full for 6 hours, and that was unknown for me. I was like, wow, what is going on? When I looked at the macro breakdown, I realized that there was 15 grams of fat in that, and I was like, okay, this is a light bulb moment. I now need fat. Fat is really good for me in the morning. So now I try to add at least 7 grams of fat into my morning routine or my morning breakfast, so that I make sure that I am full and satisfied for as long as possible. So how to track accurately as possible. So track everything. Yes, okay, it is time consuming. I'm not going to sit and say to you it's a piece of piss. It is time consuming. This is why fucking Slim and World and that work, because they make it so mundane. Like, oh yeah, look, have as much pasta as you like, pour it all in. Like, they make it easy, which to an element can be really helpful, but it's not sustainable to where you want to be. Tracking everything will make it 100% more accurate. It will be, as I said, it will be more time consuming, but it gets easier with time because you get used to things. You get to know what you're eating. You get to know what this is. You get to know what that is. Give it a month, and I promise you, it will just be like second nature. A little tip as well is to weigh out raw food. I've got another slide on it which will show the examples, because what happens is that this is especially important for like things like chicken or pastas and that. The water expanding and that can completely change. If you're drying something out, if you overcook chicken, you're going to take all of the water out, so it's going to weigh less than what someone else might do it as. So if you just weigh out raw food, you have a baseline. You know exactly what the nutritional values are. And then another tip is track even the small bites, because especially when you're cooking dinner, because we are all guilty for it. Taking a little bit of the cheese, having a little bit of your kid's sandwich, having a little bit of this, having a little bit of that. But track everything, because trust me, it mounts up. And when, we're talking that you're in like maybe a 200 to 400 calorie deficit, it is very easy to just make all of this become undone. So I tried doing videos and it didn't work, so I was really upset. So anyway, I'm going to do the videos somewhere else, but I don't know why I put that video on there, because you don't really need to see it. But anyway, that is a video of me pouring sugar, which you will see very soon. So common things that are not tracked correctly. This is just what I see from a general, like, working with many women. This is the one things that I do call them out on, and now you guys won't need to be called out on, because you guys will know and have a heads up. So oils are your... Why is it doing that? No, it's coming in really slow. Okay, I'm going to pause it. Okay. This is a video of me pouring oil. As you can see, I'm measuring it out, but if you actually look, so most people just sort of do that and just assume, but if you look, it's 6 mils of oil. And if you think that's not a lot, I think I lift the bowl up. Like, look, that is not a lot of oil. Now, there is 49 calories in 6 mils of oil. Now, I am not saying don't use olive oil. Like, you can by all means use it if you want it, but you need to be aware of it. You need to weigh it out, because that 1 mil of olive oil is like, I'm not going to do quick maths, but it's like 6 calories. So if you're just clunk, 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 and not measuring out like most people do, you can see how that really does mount up. So the next one, I hope I put my nut butter one on, because that one was a really helpful tip. Okay, next one is sauce. Just a quick video, but that is 15 mils of mayonnaise, which might seem like a lot. Like, it seems like a lot, but once you get that spread onto your sandwich or your wrap, that really isn't a lot. And this is mayonnaise light. So mayonnaise light is 40 calories. Full fat mayonnaise is like 109 calories or something ridiculous like that. So it's always be aware of measuring out your sauces. Butter is a huge one as well. So you set it to 0, and as you can see, you can only just see it, but that's 7 grams. Oh, I dropped it. There we go. And then I'm spreading it out. Like, you think if you're doing butter and not measuring it out, that will mount up. Like, and that's me being like overly cautious. If you think like as well, that bit of bread is actually cut off a little bit. Like, if I could get exactly what I wanted and like calories didn't count, I would be flathering up that butter. And if you look here, butter is 52 calories for 7 grams. So my recommendation would be, just a little tip, go for butter lightest. So like Tesco do a really good version of like Lurpak, because Lurpak is like way over, like it's way inflated. They do a really good, I think it's called spreadable lightest. That would be half the calories and it tastes just as good, in my opinion. You can get clover and like flour and things like that. The reason why I don't like those ones is because they're very like oil based, where butter is dairy based. So I guess it depends on like what your goals are and like if you're dairy intolerant. But I just find it tastes a lot nicer. I find this melts better as well. So at least that you can get it's evenly spread. Like 7 grams could get, it can get evenly spread. Would I want more? Yes, but at least you can. I just find that the oil-based ones, it's like it literally just put it on and it's really, really hard to spread. But anyway, that's a little fact for you, or a little tip. So, oh wait, hang on. The next one is milk. So milk is really going to depend on how much you like, how you like your tea. So I like mine as a builder's tea, so I use about 16 to 20 mils of milk. But if you like your tea more milkier, then you will be using more. And I know it's coming across as I'm being really pedantic, because like 17 grams of 17 milk is 8 calories. But my mum, she has 14 cups of tea. 14 cups of tea every day. So you can imagine, and she likes hers quite milky. She uses about 25 mils. So you can see how this mounts up. That's why it is important to track it, or at least just track it for a month so you get a rough idea of what you're having, and then you can just input it really quickly. So what I mean by that is that, say, you have 3 cups of tea 3 times a day. 3 cups of tea? 3 cups once a day. And you have 20 grams, that's 60 mils, and you just log 60 mils. And yeah, okay, that'll be about 32 calories, but it adds up at the end of the day. If you think 32 calories times 7, it's there. The other one as well is sugar. So most of you probably will use sweetener if you've been dieting, you've probably been brought into that. But if you think like that was 5 grams of sugar, and then, or 11 grams, and then if you look at the calories on it, where is it? Is it there? Yeah, 28 calories for just 7 grams of sugar. So most people that do have sugar will have at least 2 tablespoons. So again, it mounts up. And like, I am not saying don't have it. This is like a good example of like what's worth it to you, what's not worth it. To me, sugar in my tea ain't bloody worth it. I'm not having sugar in my tea. I'll just stick to sweetener. But for someone else, they might think, oh my goodness, like I need sugar in my tea, and then they're going to use their allowance on that, and that's absolutely fine. One of the tips that I didn't include, let me just pause this, is this is a really, really good way of working out how many, I can't get words out. This is a really good way of like being able to accurately work out your grams in like dishes, or even pastas to a certain degree, or anything like that. So basically you just set the scales to 0, you place your pot on top, you set your scales to 0, and you spoon it out like that way. So just like this. So you set it to 0, then you spoon it out. So I'm using like almond butter, so it's quite hard. And then you've got 6 grams. That's the most easiest way of doing it. It's the most accurate way as well, rather than like taking it and then measuring it out and putting like your peanut butter or whatever you're using on there. So that's another helpful tip. That's really good for sauce. When I did my mayonnaise demonstration, that's how I did it as well. So yeah, fun little tip. Okay, this is where it gets to the fun stuff. So basic maths helps you become more of an accurate tracker. Now, I know maths is all like school-based, and it's really, really simple. Now, I'm not a maths teacher, so when I say simple, I might not explain it right, and if I'm saying stuff and it really doesn't make sense, drop me a message on the group chat and I can try explain it in a way that just makes sense to you. But hopefully, if you keep just repeating this video, it will then eventually make sense. The reason why we want to get good at like just work out basic maths is like percentages. You know, if you're doing like 50% of something or 35 grams of something, say you've like made this massive meal prep and you only want 25 grams of it, but you need to work out the calories, it's going to be a lot easier to work it out that way. So I've got some simple maths tips for you. The thing is that these are the things that are often mistracked, and they can easily track you out of a deficit, because we're talking like you can mistrack by like 100, 200, 300 calories, and that will either take you out of a deficit or it will just put you into a very small deficit. So that's why you won't see the changes on the scales. So that's just worth being aware of. So this is a meal prep chicken. So I'm going to try to explain it in the best way possible. I haven't rehearsed this, so hopefully I don't blabber on too much. So you have your raw chicken. You say you're meal prepping raw chicken for the next week, okay? You're going to put out 400 grams. You're then going to work out the calories in that 400 grams of chicken. So you can see that 400 grams of raw chicken is 424 calories. So you know that this has 424 calories. Great, okay. You're going to cook it here. By the way, I would recommend putting like paprika on it or something, I'm a weirdo and I eat really plain food, but if you want flavour, this in an air fryer is really, really good. And put some or if you don't have an air fryer grill, literally put some paprika on top of it, and it tastes so good, and it's really, really good meal prep. So when you say that you can't get your protein in, you've got no excuse when you're doing it like this. Anyway, so you weigh out your chicken, and just say, for example, this chicken now weighs 320 grams. Why would it weigh less? Because you've pulled water out of it. You're dehydrating the chicken to cook it. That is how you cook food. Now, if you look here, this NutriCheck thinks that 320 grams of cooked chicken is 490 calories. So you're actually like underplaying yourself. You're actually going to scam yourself if you log it like this. It also thinks that there's 11 grams of fat in there. Now, I think that it's basing this on oil. If you were to oil it, I don't really know how it's working it out, but anyhow, it's wrong. But the thing is that although NutriCheck says that 320 grams is 490 calories, you know this, because water doesn't have any calories in it, you know that this is actually 424. You know that. So you're going to work out that. So you weighed it out, all good. You're now going to work out the calories per gram, because you want to know, say you wanted 50 grams of this meal prep. Okay, you could do the basic maths to divide that, but you could work out it by gram. So to do this, you literally just do 424 calories divided by the grams. So you do the total calories of the product divided by the grams. Hopefully that little thing that I got from ChatGPT makes sense, but you would know that 1 gram of chicken is 1.3 calories. Then, say I wanted 70 calories worth of food, or say I want, okay, that's not a very good way of doing an example, but the point I'm trying to get at is that you can now work out how many grams you want. Say you wanted 50 grams, you would just do 50 times 1.3. The best way that you can input this onto NutriCheck, because of course if you input it now, it's 320 onto the cooked, it's not going to work. If you put it onto the raw, it's not going to work. The best example I can give you is that, say, okay, I'm making a meal and I'm going to make myself like a pasta dish, and I've got the pre-cooked chicken in there. Okay, I'm going to weigh out the chicken, and then I'm going to like figure out how many calories I want. So rather than weighing it out first, I'm going to work out how many calories I want. So, okay, I want 70 grams of chicken. I want 70 calories, worth of chicken. So to do that, the best way is just going onto NutriCheck and just thumping around with it until you get the 70 calories. So I've done a video on this. So you can see that I'm just thumping around with the numbers because I'm trying to get this to 70 calories because that's how much I want. So you can't even see me. There we go. I just play around with it. So then I find out that 67 grams is going to equal to 74 calories based on NutriCheck. That's a really, really good point to make. That's based on NutriCheck, just so that you can log it accurately. You know that 70 calories isn't going to be inputted the same way. The way that you would work out 70 calories of the actual product that you want is you would do 70 divided by 1.3. So you know that you need 54 grams of this product. Now I know, so there's 2 equations that you need to do, but they are very simple maths. And I promise you that once you get your head around it, it will make more sense. If a lot of you are like coming up and saying, fucking hell, Beck, like what are you trying to say? I'll do another video on it. But probably not the best person to explain maths, but hopefully it does make sense. I'm going to do another one as well, so hopefully that will sink in as well. And at the end of the day, if you are looking at this video and you're like, I really don't have a bloody clue what you're saying, if you find it so confusing and you're like, I just will not get my head around it, just keep it simple and just do 25, 50% or 33%. Don't try work out the calories or things, just sort of accept it, work it out from that way. That is going to be your best bet if you are really, really struggling. Okay, this is another example. So this is working out the percentages of cooked food. So say like I was making a meal prep, or I was just like cooking pasta, and so the reason why I've done this video actually is because I cooked pasta for me and my husband, but he has a little bit of he has different energy requirements to me. So we had different pasta quantities, and I just did it in 2 separate dishes. So I cooked the pasta together rather than do 2 separate pastas. But then I just worked out the percentage quantities differently, and then I put our own ingredients in. So a really, really simple way of doing this is that I've got weigh out the dry pasta, which it would be here, and I've got 140 grams. So the cooked pasta, which would be here, the total is 370 grams because it's absorbed all the water. You then work out how many grams of pasta you want to eat and work out the percentage of this compared to the dry pasta you originally portioned. So I want 60 grams, okay? I don't want half of it, I want 60 grams. So 60 grams of the 140 grams of pasta would be 43%. To do this, you divide the number you want by the number you have. I wish I included like the little cute thing that ChatGPT did for me, but basically you just do you always do the little number by the big number. That is the easiest way. That is always how you'll work out a percentage. So 60 grams divided by 140 is 43%. So I know that I need 43% of 370 grams now. So to do that, the most easiest way that I do it, my partner says that I do it backwards, but this is the easiest way that I do it. I do 370 divided by 100, and that will give me 1%. So this is now 1% of what I need. And then times that by 43, and then I know that I need 159 grams. So from this to get 43% of what I want, so this to get 60 grams, which is 43%, I would then need to take out 159 grams. And then remember the technique that I showed you a couple slides ago? If you set this to 0, I can then easily take it off. I can just take it off without having to mess around with it. So that is the best way that you can work it out. Now, it's very, very similar. This is a very similar method. I know that this looks really bloody confusing because I'm not going to lie, I looked at this and thought, oh, what the fuck have I done? But it does make sense. Working out the calories of meals and meal prep. So this is another one that people get really really stuck on, and then they underestimate or overestimate, and then it just doesn't make them be in a calorie deficit in the most accurate way possible. So the best way to do this is something that I made a couple of weeks ago. It tastes really good. I know it looks gross, but it tastes really good. This is really, really good for meal prep. It's just really good. It's like a tomato based chicken basically, and it's just really good and really easy to just like bung onto anything. Bung into rice, bung it into pasta, like whatever you fancy. If you take the juice out, you can even have it in a sandwich. So really good little tip, and that was on the slow cooker. So my tomato chicken meal prep, these are all the ingredients. If you go onto NutriCheck and you go into meals, you can literally really, really easily input this. It's so easy to input it. You input all of your ingredients. I don't think I've got a video on it, but that's absolutely fine. Like you'll be able to do it. You're just straightforward. You input all the ingredients you want. You literally just follow what you're having, and then you set it to 1. So that's really worth knowing. It will say how many servings does this make, but don't do it like that. That gets really, really confusing. Set it to 1, and then you know how much the whole thing will have. So it will come down and it will say to you, oh, like this whole pot is like 1,000 calories or 900 calories or whatever it is. So that would be the easiest way. Once it's cooked, you then weigh out the mixture, okay? You weigh it out. So I know that this whole mixture is 770 grams. I made that up, but just for sakes, it's 770 grams. You then want to work out how much of this you want. For easy sakes, I just recommend either having a third, a quarter, or half, because here it's in fractions, so it's a lot easier to work it out. If you click this number 1 and you click it and then you click it down to 0, then you can work out your fractions, or your fractions are even on here. It's just the most easiest way to do it. When people are like, I want 34%, it just then it gets really, really confusing. So then you know 34%, okay, great, of no, not 34%. Let's say 25. A quarter of this now, which I think I've put, I'm trying to look, no, I think I put that as a third, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. I know that a third of this, actually, no, sorry. Oh my God, I'm like chatting so much. I asked for 20%. I asked for 20% because I wanted to give you an example. So I asked for 20%, which is 1/5. So that would be that. So it's 228 calories for 20% of this mixture. So, okay, great. I know how many calories is in the mixture, but I need to now know what is 20% of this. I could eyeball it, but the chances are you are going to be a little bit out. So you know that the whole mixture is 770 grams. Okay, to work out 20%, well, the easiest way would be to divide it by 5. That would be the easiest way to do this. But if you want to, say you did want to know what 20 or 34% is, you would just take the mixture, divide it by 100, which then you know 1%, just like we did before. So in this case, it's 7.7, and then you would times 7 by 7. Oh my God, I've made it really confusing. I put 33%, but I meant 20%. And then you know that that is how much of the product you need. So you then know that you need to take out 254 grams for 33%. That is the most easiest way to do it. Again, if you're looking at this and you're reading this and you're like, I don't have a fucking clue what she's saying, then I will do another video on it. I'll do like a separate webinar and try and make it a little bit easier or simplified to explain. So anyway, we've done that stuff. We've done it. Woo! So now we're going to do the track while eating out. So this is the most common thing that I hear people say. I didn't track it because I wasn't aware of the calories. They went out for brunch or they did this, they did that. I didn't track it because I didn't know. Estimate. It's the best way. It's never going to be 100% accurate, and that is just me being completely honest with you. It is never going to be. The more you eat out, the less accurate that your nutrition diary is going to be. That is just how it is. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't eat out. Absolutely, you should still have a social life. You should still be a normal human being. So the best way is to estimate it and take it with a pinch of salt. If you're not sure, always go for the upper end. You literally, the best way to work out food on you is to take it bit by bit. The more you track, the easier it will get, because you'll start to realize what food is. You'll be able to say, oh, that's hummus, oh, that's mayonnaise, oh, this is that. You'll get a real understanding. A really good tip is using the menu to guide you. So, for example, if I had a burger and I was like, I don't know what this burger is, if it said beef dripping burger with onions and cheese and cheddar cheese and mayonnaise, then I would know what those ingredients are. And I can literally track it bit by bit. Also, pay attention to how they say it's cooked. So if they say pan fried, you know it's going to be fried, so you'll need to allocate oil. So we know that 5 mils of oil is 40 calories, so you need to be aware of that. Grilled, obviously, is going to be the more safer option. FYI, Miller & Carter is grilled. So if you ever do need to go to Miller & Carter, you can know that you can track your meat as it is. Alfredo, which basically means creamy, so just be aware of that. Things that say creamy, cheesy, you know that it's going to be a little bit more calorific than, say, something that you would normally have at home. So if you do not want to track at the table, which I completely get it, imagine having a meal out and you're like, oh my God, I need a burger. Like, no, don't need to do that. What I would say is pre-log your menu. So pre-log what you're doing. If you're in a calorie deficit, I would pre-log it, so you've got at least an idea what's going on based on what you see on the menu. But then I would take a picture of it, just take a little snap, and then try to take it accurately as well, because what you don't want to just take a picture of one thing, like take a picture like that, and then you've like missed out everything else on your plate. But point is, take a picture of it, and then when you get home, you can then track it. You can look at the picture. I do this all the time when I'm in a deficit. I look at all the time and I go, oh, okay, now I can track it. It might be over, it might be under. The most important thing is that don't bury your head on the sand. The amount of times that I've had clients say, oh my goodness, I tracked it and it was like 400 calories over. What am I going to do? And I'm like, move on. Because now you know. It doesn't matter, because those calories are going to be ingested regardless, but now you know when you go there, you know what to expect. And there's only so many things that you can order on a menu as well. Even Italian, Mexicans, there's only so many things that you can order. So that is a really, really good tip. I'll give you an example as well. So this is a lovely roast dinner that I had a couple of weeks ago in Weymouth, and I took a picture of it for the gram, obviously. So I literally just look at it very literal, that this is a big Yorkshire pudding. I typed in Yorkshire pudding, came up with Toby Carver, and I thought, you know what? It's probably going to be similar. Okay. Green beans, I sort of estimated it. I was like, there's about 60 grams of it. Again, the more you track, the more you start to realise, oh yeah, there's about 60 grams. Carrots, there was actually little carrots underneath there. I was like, about 50 grams. The gravy, there's about 100 mils. So I put 100 mils there, which is about 48, which, you know what, is about accurate. Maybe I was a little bit generous. Maybe it'll be a bit more calories, but give or take. There was roast potatoes, and I could have used potato, like logged it as potato and then oil, but this is quite a good way, like this is quite accurate in my opinion. So I saw that there was 3 little potatoes there, so I logged them. Log the beef. They were quite generous on the beef, so I did 120. Again, the more you log, if you're logging your roast dinners that you have at home, you'll then get very used to these quantities. There was the stuff in there as well. So this whole meal came to 874 calories, and I literally worked it out by breaking it out bit by bit. As I said, the more you track your own food, the easier it will get. The only reason why I knew that this was about, because there was some underneath, there was about 120 calories, 120 grams, is because I log my food. I log it at home. There's no way you would know that. If you've never logged a beef before, then you wouldn't know, and you can only estimate, because things are going to have different density, and that's absolutely fine. It's just all, you can only have an estimate, and this just takes time. And I'm digressing, but this is the thing as well, is people think that you should be able to just calorie count like that. It's a skill. It is a skill. It takes time. And don't be too hung up on the numbers. At the end of the day, if you are 400 calories over, then cool, you enjoyed it, didn't you? So that is the main thing. So this is just a cool one to talk about. This is how to track calories without it taking over your life. Because as I said at the beginning of this, calorie counting is a tool. It is not a life sentence. I don't want anyone to get so worked up on it. And yes, okay, it is very literal way. It is a very, very literal way of working out your energy balance, but that doesn't not mean that you need to make it your whole life. The best like tips that I can give you is pre-log things as much as you can. So as I said about the milk, when you start to realize that, okay, I have 3 cups of milk a day, just pre-log it in your Ming, and then estimate it. You'll start to understand, your tipping patterns and what you're doing. That is the best advice I can give. Start utilizing pre-logging meals. Log as many as you possibly can. So, for example, I throughout the week will pre-log all my meals, and then I will definitely pre-log my nightcap oats. So I always have a bowl of oats and hot chocolate before I go to bed, and this is always pre-logged. Then it takes away the thinking. I know that this is about 220 calories, so that I know that my rest of my meals that I have, I need to fit them within my calorie allowance, whatever that may be. And it's just a lot easier way of knowing. I call them like my non-negotiables of food. Like I know I'm going to have 2 cups of tea a day. I know I'm going to have my night oats a day. My other breakfast, lunch and dinner, I don't know what I'm going to have, but that means that I now know at least I've got the 1,000 whatever calories to have and play around with. It just makes it so much easier. Another really good way of doing it is pre-logging meals based on your calories. So basically, the simpler that you can make things, the more similar that you can make things during your journey and in your routine, the easier it can get. So you start to understand, the beginning of the video when I said start tracking your eating patterns, working out your hunger, etc. I did this by working out, what I want. Some people want bigger breakfasts, some people want smaller breakfasts. For me, my very good, like when, say I was on 1,700 calories, I would know, okay, breakfast is 300, lunch is 500, dinner is 500, and then I've got 200 snacks. And then I know that I need to do that, and I can hit that every day, and it just makes out working out lunches and dinners so lot easier, so much easier. It means that I can now, okay, I need to make dinner tonight, and I now know that I need to make it within 500 calories. If you just go blinded every day, you don't know what you're having for breakfast, you don't know what you're having for lunch, dinner, snacks, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have 500 here, 400 there, and it just makes everything so hard to actually work it out. So that is my really, really top tip, is like get your little like breakdowns of the calories and try stick to them as best as possible. Sometimes I go like 50 calories over, and I'm like, okay, that just means I need to know that I need to go 50 calories under for my dinner. But if I didn't have that plan of action, if I didn't know that, I would just be literally going blinded all the time. So a good thing to point out, and this is just from generally from coaching women and from my own experience, most people will get benefit from the first 6 months from tracking. The first 6 months is where you're going to get the most benefit. It's where you're going to do all the learning. This is only going to work if you track accurately, if you track everything, not eyeballing it. So 6 months of actually saying, you know what, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to do it. That is the best way. You do this consistently and accurately, and don't bury your head in the sand when things don't go to your plan. You do this for 6 months, you will be so good at tracking your nutrition. You will be so nutritionally aware. You will know what the calories are in all foods, which means it's going to make your maintenance journey when you're not tracking so much easier, because you're always going to have it in the forefront of your brain. You're going to know what foods work for you. You're going to know, calories is like yes, calories are in food, but actually it's the macro breakdown that are most important, which we explained in the last webinar. You're going to know that, oh, there's, 30 grams of carbs in this, and I really love carbs. Oh, this is a really good pre-workout. Or, oh, you know what, there's a lot of protein in this. Cool, I'm going to have that for my dinner. The more you do this, and on average about 6 months, the easier it will get. And then for some people, they even come away from tracking and they're still losing body fat because they are just this only really works if you're routined, but you get so routined and it gets so much easier. So anyway, that is the webinar. There's a lot of talking. I hope that this all makes sense, and I will see you on the next one.